Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Crashy, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about why you're playing Pokemon Unite wrong and how changing some of the things that you do, or just being aware of some of the things that are going on in the game, will actually make you a much better player and help you rank up in the ranked mode. So I have a bunch of notes here and I'm going to kind of go through them. Some of them are a little bit out of order, but it's really like a lot of the things that I wanted to touch on that I am consistently seeing people do wrong, whether it's in really high ranked games or like veteran to like ultra games. There are just a lot of like fundamental mistakes. I was streaming yesterday and it was like one of those days where like I saw every mistake that every player in my games were making, and I really do want to share the information, because what's going to end up happening is people are going to get further into the lifespan of this game and they're going to figure it out then, but it's kind of like the growing pains of the game right now. So I've got a few points on my sheet here and I'm going to get through them. So one of the things that people are not doing correctly in Pokemon Unite is overdunking the first goal on your lane. So what I mean by that is, if you're going to take the first goal, like entirely take it, you should be trying to min-max a little bit of overdunking. So if you have, let's say there's 32 points left, 32 energy left to be scored on that goal. If you can get somebody that can get it really close to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then overdunk like a 30 or 40 slam on top of that low number that's left like around, that's just more scoring at an easier you know, like pace, or like it's an easier, more bigger score. I don't know how to say that, but the reason why is because you can overdunk like 30 points on a goal that only has like 5 left or something like that, and you don't have to, it doesn't have to be the most min-max thing in the world, because you do need to make sure you get that score in, but it is something to think about. Now, on the note of overdunking that first goal, I think it's important to state how strong of an advantage you could potentially have later in the game by not scoring that goal, by not fully completing that goal. If you were to leave that first goal, you're going to have the double points option very close to you throughout the entirety of the last 2 minutes, and that could be a really easy 100 points, even if the Zapdos fight hasn't started. Like you could literally have your team like stalling Zapdos, or like being prepared for Zapdos, and one person could quickly go to one of those like first lane zones and dunk 100 points, and that could be almost enough to full swing a game for sure. So that's like one of the biggest things about the first goals that I'm saying, is not necessarily overdunking properly, or not considering the fact that you could actually leave that goal there for later. Now, I think that talking about the first goal leads us perfectly into my next point, which is overextending. I see this is probably the number one issue, one of plaguing the game. It's definitely one of the biggest issues. When the first goal is gone, whether especially in top lane for whatever reason, but also in bottom lane, after you get Dreadnought, after you get Rotom, that maybe the first goal's gone, stop pushing up that lane, stop overextending. There's nothing for you down there. You're just going to walk forward to the second goal, you're going to get a few kills, and they're going to just continuously dive on you 2 and 3 times until all you're doing is feeding them back some of the EXP advantage that you had all the early game, because you wanted to try to see if you could push up to the second goal and score. You're not going to score there. Even if you do score there, it's not really worth the risk of trying. And the reality is, when you overextend in towards that second goal, whatever points you're carrying and whatever XP lead you have, you're literally handing them for free. They're going to start winning, they're going to start getting kills, which means that they're going to start closing the gap on the EXP lead that you have. And if you're holding on to like 40 points and you die, you're going to drop a bunch of those and they're going to get a bunch of points. So stop overextending that second lane, or like that second goal. You literally have almost no reason to go there unless you're trying to do like a backdoor turn in, and that is kind of like a more specific thing that you kind of have to feel out in the game. But realistically, as like a full team, or even as like 3 people, because that's what I see most, I see like 2 or 3 people overextend to the second goal, and it makes no sense whatsoever to have people all the way over there. Now this next point, or this next bulletin point, is actually the biggest issue: not grouping. I don't know how to emphasize more how important it is to just be constantly grouped. The game has 3 distinct phases that happen very quickly. It's a 10-minute game, 3.5 minutes, anywhere between like 3 to 4 minutes, 3.5 minutes, somewhere in that range. The early game is all about playing your lane, being in lane, getting as much experience, being prepared to help the jungler, diving the enemy tower, doing anything you can to get experience. The next midsection of like the next mid-third of the game is all about grouping with your team. Dreadnought comes up, you got your top laners coming down, maybe it's one, maybe it's both. Realistically, it should probably be both. And y'all are fighting as a team in the mid game, trying to take advantages, trying to dive the enemy tower, trying to push out that first goal. When you're grouped as 5, everything is easier. And I think that it's just like hard for people to feel like 3.5 minutes in you should be leaving your lane, but seriously, you need to group with your team. There's nothing more important. I don't care about Zapdos. I mean, yeah, all of that's how you win, but you want to get the advantage by grouping early, and you want to hold the advantage by grouping early and not overextending and not feeding back into the team that you were just stomping the whole game. Group with your team. Always be grouped. Another thing that is more like, I guess, kind of like inherent to MOBA players, and I almost never see anyone do this in Pokemon Unite, is Gank Bushes. A gank bush is where like the whole team will get in like a very forward bush or a very weird bush, and you just wait for like one person to pass by, and then you just dog on them, and then you use that kill to find another advantage, or to invade and take more farm, or to start a Dreadnought. And it just seems like people kind of are more like literal with their actions, like, oh, there's a thing right here, let's go walk directly towards it. Like, there are moments in MOBAs where you can be very patient and just sit in a bush for a second, and that's one thing that I just haven't really seen a lot. So not necessarily like things that are being done wrong, but things that could be done really right. All right, let's talk about buff management. This one isn't too bad, but it's definitely something a little funny. If you're in the early to mid section of the game and you're a laner, do not take Ludicolo. Like, do not take Ludicolo. I don't care if you take Buffalon very much, because it's an attack speed slow. And it would be nice for the jungler to have that, so for whenever he goes to both lanes, potentially if he catches somebody out in the jungle, he's got that attack speed, or that move speed slow rather, on his attacks. But if you are early game taking Ludicolo, you are denying your jungle's clear time, which means you're denying him the ability to help you and your lane, or your opposing lane, like your other side of your team's lane. You're denying him experience. Like, don't touch Ludicolo. Just do not touch the blue buff if you're a laner for at least like the majority of the game. Now here's the irony of that, but Buffalon, like in mid to late game, is actually pretty good on attackers, because that's the range people. Pretty good on attackers. And in late game, when it comes to Zapdos, I would say that Ludicolo could probably go on attackers, it could go on speedsters, maybe all-rounders. It really that just comes down to buff management, like in terms of getting Ludicolo on you, so that way you have it for, like Zapdos or something. That would be really good. But buff management wise, just laners, please stop taking Ludicolo. I know I'm a jungle main, but it's like, you really don't understand. Like, stop taking that buff, please. All right, let's talk about all things Zapdos. So obviously people know that people are doing Zapdos wrong. You don't really have to say anything about it. Zapdos is very specific. It is the biggest swing in the game, meaning that you cannot take risks with Zapdos. It's as simple as making sure you're grouped and prepared for Zapdos. It's as simple as winning a grouped coordinated team fight and trying to target priority the right people. If you get, I had a question last night in stream saying, like, when do you really go for Zapdos? And the reality is, you need enough time after a clean enough wipe, and when I say a clean wipe of the enemy team, I mean that your team is mostly intact, your team's health is mostly good, and y'all are close enough, actually physically close enough to Zapdos to start it after that team wipe. And you probably, if this is just like a really rough estimate, but you probably need like at least 3 of the enemy team down for like 12 12 seconds or 10 seconds. You need enough time that the other players of the enemy team don't feel comfortable really hard engaging and trying to dive in for the kill, because you know you can all turn and kill it, but not a small enough window of time where the people that did die can just respawn and jump back in. So you know, and it's the same thing, right? Like, don't start Zapdos if you're ahead. You don't need it. If you're ahead, you don't need it. You just need to play really, really well. And on the other side of things, once Zapdos is taken, you want to go score. If you take it, you want to go score your goals, but then you need to get the heck out of there. I see so many people win Zapdos and lose the game. I've actually seen that so much more than you would expect, because what they do is they win Zapdos, like, let's say really early, like almost like 15 seconds in, like a minute and 45 seconds left, or a minute and a half left, a minute 15 seconds left, and they all go dive toward the enemy team's base, and yeah, maybe they turn in 200 or maybe they turn in 400, but what happens is they all get wiped. Every one of that team that got Zapdos gets put on a long spawn, and the whole enemy team goes and dunks back on them. And that happens. I don't want to say it's super often, but it's often enough. Don't overstay in the enemy base. Go back to your base. Get ready to defend your own positions. When you know you have a lead, you don't even have to go anywhere. You just stay in your base and you use the jump pad to stop, you know, attackers from trying to score goals in that double time at the last minute. This one probably should have came earlier, but my last bullet point is talking about when to use your Unite move. I think that there's the good thing about MOBAs, and it's cool, but it's also bad, is that there's just so much freedom and subjectivity to choose when to do things, but that also is part of the skill ceiling, meaning you have to have really good decision making, and that's kind of what this video is about. So when to use your Unite move is pretty simple. When you get it, like kind of early mid-game-ish, like that early to mid-game transition, it's probably closer to the mid-game, you can use it because you just got it. You want to use it to get yourself an advantage. My opinion, when I get my Unite move, I want to use it at the first opportunity available, because I know that should lead me to a kill, and that kill should, you know, give me an experience advantage, or if we were behind, help close the gap on that experience advantage that the enemy team has. So, you know, for me, for example, like especially on someone like Charizard, who is one of my jungle mains that I haven't actually played in a while, but when I get level 9 on him and I get my ult, I insta use it. Like, I'll fly to a lane if I'm not already in a lane, and I'll just blow up and try to kill somebody with it, because I want that advantage. I want what that advantage is going to afford me, which might be, you know, the first tower down or the first zone down, the goal, whatever. And yeah, so use your Unite move. On the flip side of that, when you're getting close to like 3 minutes of the game left, maybe don't use your Unite move. I see there's like one Dreadnought fight that tends to happen before Zapdos sometimes. I see so many people blow ultimates in that fight, and the reality is, like, yeah, you maybe want to win that Dreadnought, but that fight doesn't matter, because it's the fight after that is the one that matters, and you can't really use 1 minute's time to get a full ultimate back. So, you know, maybe save your ultimate for sub 2 minutes, not even just at 2 minutes, like a minute 45, a minute 30. That's where you want your ultimate, because that's where it really, really matters. So thank you guys so much for listening to how people could play the game better. In my opinion, I think that the vast majority of the player base is just mostly playing the game wrong, and it's because we just haven't had the overexposure yet. The game is like just barely over a week old, and a lot of this is going to naturally happen in time, where people are solving the game. They're figuring out how to play it, but it's becoming solvable, like as in you see the pattern, you see like the more optimal way to play it, and when everybody's on that same note, it comes down to execution and not whether or not someone was in the right position. It comes down to actually getting it done. So as always, thank you guys for checking out the video. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know what else you would add to this, or if you feel like something I said was like new information for you or something that you learned. That'd be really, really cool. But I definitely appreciate your time. Drop a like and subscribe if you like, you know, the video and want some future Pokemon Unite content. But be sure to be kind to one another. Tell someone that you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.